Governor Charlie Baker and the director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention speaking out about the spread of the coronavirus in Massachusetts and the potential for a fourth surge. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Western Mass News at 6. I'm Jordyn Jagolinzer. Both leaders urging people to keep up the safety measures as more variants pop up across the Bay State. Western Mass News reporter Sarah Granelli joins us live now in Boston with more on what they're saying. Sarah?
Jordyn, the CDC director, did join the governor here today in Boston, and she said the impending doom, what she called, could be for a potential fourth wave of the coronavirus. But the good news is that our vaccines that we're getting that are rolling out more and more quickly here in Massachusetts is stopping the spread of the virus. Governor Charlie Baker tracking COVID-19 in Massachusetts, with new cases up to about 1,400 to 1,700 a day.
We've continued to monitor the spread of the virus, and we've continued to update and adjust our restrictions accordingly. Massachusetts still has a mask order in place. You need to wear a face covering when you leave your house.
The governor was joined on Tuesday by the director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, who grabbed headlines this week when saying the potential fourth wave of the coronavirus is giving her a feeling of impending doom. Rochelle Walensky tells Western Mass News it's a warning to continue safety measures.
When I said I had a feeling of impending doom, it is sort of this feeling that I've had surge after surge, serving on the front lines at Massachusetts General Hospital, and recognizing that right now it's preventable. We know that it's preventable. We have the science to prevent. We know what we need to do to stop the surge, and we would ask everybody to go ahead and do that.
In Massachusetts, 1 in 5 people have been fully vaccinated. About 80% of people over the age of 75 have gotten their first dose of the vaccine. Walensky says the vaccines are showing progress against the variants, so the more shots in the arms, the better.
That with the 2 doses of the mRNA vaccine and the J&J vaccine, that the current variants that are circulating, the vaccines will be effective against. However, the more virus that you have and the more variants that are circulating, there's always a risk of more mutation, and that those mutations could potentially pose a risk against the effectiveness of these vaccines.
So on April 16th, those who are 16 years and older will be able to get the COVID-19 vaccine. And Governor Baker says that no matter when you can get the vaccine, that Massachusetts will be ready. Live in Boston, I'm Sarah Granelli for Western Mass News.
Sarah, thanks for that live report. The Department of Public Health releasing today's COVID-19 data. The state's positivity rate over the last 7 days sits at 2.55%. The state also reporting 18 new deaths due to the coronavirus, and so far more than 2.2 million Massachusetts residents have received 1 dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. There are approximately 6.8 million who live in the Bay State. For a full look at those numbers, you can check out our free Western Mass News streaming app. Springfield Public Schools unveiling their back to full-time in-person learning plan for students in the city, a homecoming of sorts for students and staff who have been remote for a year. Following a series of changes to the buildings, Western Mass News is learning more about how the teachers union feels about returning to the classroom 5 days a week. Western Mass News reporter Audrey Russo is live for us in Springfield with their thoughts on the plan. Audrey?
You may recall that throughout the academic year, the Springfield Education Association, the teachers union, has had a lot of concerns about returning to in-person learning. They were concerned about air quality and some other health hazards. Speaking to them today, the president says that she now feels a lot more comfortable with teachers going back in person in the classroom, returning to what they love.
We are absolutely excited about Monday.
Rebecca Johnson Elementary School in Springfield will see its students fill the halls in less than 1 week's time. By May 3rd, they'll be fully in person, a first for the district since switching to remote learning a year ago. The school has implemented new air quality upgrades in the buildings, plus distance desks, taped off water fountains, and regular sanitation schedules to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Superintendent Daniel Warwick says masks will be required for all students.
Trying to organize mask breaks is going to be very important, where we can get the kids outside and have a mask break outside.
Lunches will be held in classrooms rather than in the cafeteria, but Warwick says teachers won't have to supervise students the whole day.
The teachers are still going to get their preparation period every day and a duty-free lunch, and we'll have other staff supporting and watching the kids at that time.
Western Mass News spoke to the president of the Springfield Education Association, Maureen Colgan-Posner. Earlier in the year, she was nervous about teachers returning to classrooms, but now
I actually think that a lot of the concerns were brought from us to the district, and then the district worked with us.
Colgan-Posner says through ongoing negotiations, they worked out safety protocols that would make educators feel safe.
It was a very cooperative effort, really, between the district and the Springfield Education Association.
And with teachers now eligible for the vaccine, the next thing to look forward to is actually seeing the students they've only met through a screen.
I think they're always excited about seeing their students. They won't see all of them, and I don't think we should kid ourselves about the fact that not all students are going to come back because they don't feel safe. But certainly our educators are always, the best thing is about being with their students.
Now, elementary students and middle school students know when they'll be back in the Springfield School District, both hybrid and full-time. High school students are still waiting as there's no official date for them to start yet. Live in Springfield, Audrey Russo for Western Mass News.
Audrey, thanks. New at 6 rural schools in Western Mass will soon have some extra funds. State Senator Adam Hinz of Pittsfield, who represents 52 schools across the 4 Western Mass counties, announced that the state has allocated $3 million in rural school aid in this year's budget. He says the grant will bring more than $1 million to schools in his district alone. Now to a story you'll only see here right on Western Mass News. A local mother is speaking out after her son was fatally shot on Saturday night in Springfield. Now city officials are working to try to stop the violence. Western Mass News reporter Lindsay Kane has more.
A parent is not supposed to put their children in the ground.
A weekend of gun violence in Springfield has left 1 man dead and at least 2 injured after 3 separate shootings in the city. Police say 26-year-old Camry Starks was killed on Shawmut Street Saturday night. At least 36 shell casings were found near the scene.
Camry, he was just trying to help people. You know, if you asked Camry to help you, he would. You know, Camry, he was just Camry. He was just Camry trying to do the best he could.
Irene Starks is speaking exclusively with Western Mass News just days after learning her youngest son of 7 was gone.
He did do some time in jail. However, when Camry came out of jail, Camry was working very, very hard. He's been working, taking care of his daughter. Took us all by surprise, totally by surprise.
She says he had another child on the way and valued family over everything. Now grieving, she says it's hard to understand what happened.
He wasn't doing anything. He was just driving. From my understanding, he was just driving.
But Stark says it's time to change the narrative surrounding this violence in the city.
I understand there's a gang problem in Springfield, but you know what? They're also somebody's children. And we need to get these children and grab them up. Instead of labeling them, we need to grab them and label them as somebody's child.
Springfield City Councilor Mallow Brown tells Western Mass News root causes to this violence need to be addressed.
We do need the police to keep us safe, but we also need other programs that are out there, so say like Families Against Violence. There's programs out there that can help mentor and develop some of these youth.
Programs, he says, that have been on the back burner for years.
They're not getting the proper funding. And I can assure you that to me is one of the biggest issues.
Meanwhile, Stark says it's important to not take anything for granted.
Grab hold of your children and love them and tell them you love them and mean it when you say it. Because love goes a long ways and stops a lot of mess.
Lindsay Kane, Western Mass News.
Caught on video, police chasing down an illegal dirt biker in Agawam. This has many in the community now talking. Western Mass News reporter Leon Purvis has the story.
Take a look at this video obtained by Western Mass News. You can see Agawam police going after an illegal dirt biker in the parking lot of Geisler's grocery store over the weekend. Once catching up to him, police did not make an arrest. They let the rider go after talking to him. We came here to the shopping plaza where the police car was chasing the dirt biker and asked residents what they thought about this happening in their community.
I think that's terrible. I think it can obviously injure somebody, and there should be a pretty tough penalty for it.
At that point, if they're running from the police, it creates a whole other,
concerned that there's going to be an innocent person struck or, by the bike.
Agawam resident Debbie Saraceno tells Western Mass News if she saw something like this happening, she would want police to take action.
Most likely report it. I'd probably, if it were happening here, I would go in and ask the courtesy desk if they would place a call and, call the police and see if they can catch him.
In Agawam, Leon Purvis, Western Mass News.